Umlazi residents are hopping mad after deadly mass shootings rock the area. A plea for harmony as some South Africans clash with foreigners. Hello and welcome to eNews Direct Weekend Edition. I'm Shahan Ramkisoon. You can comment on our stories by following us on Facebook and Twitter at eNews Direct, or check out our content on enca.com/direct.
Hello from me, Jeffrey Stevens. You can track our main stories using the following hashtags: Umlazi, Xenophobia and SACP.
This leads members of the Umlazi community are taking matters into their own hands. 3 houses suspected to be drug dens have been torched in the Durban township. It comes after 4 members of a family were murdered and 8 others shot and wounded. Residents are blaming the violence on drugs.
This community has taken matters into its own hands. 8 people were shot at a tavern on Friday night. Hours later, on Saturday morning, a mother and 3 children were gunned down. Residents are blaming the violence on drugs. 3 houses were torched, belonging to suspected drug dealers and gangsters. This home belonged to a suspect who was killed by police after the mass shooting. Police say a vigilante group went to a 14-year-old's house late on Saturday night and kidnapped him. They told the boy's family they wanted him to point out the drug dealers he knew.
Every Friday. Asaphumuli ingane sezajwayele ibhamu umidlalo ingane baba ngoba ijwayele isibhamu siphuma every day mphakathi masibambene ngeke siwe kodwa mahlukene sizowa.
Police are appealing to the community to remain calm.
Community must come down. The police are working around the clock to find the suspects. They must not take the law into their hand because it's going to go back to them. Because if they do whatever or they kill anyone, then they are going to be arrested for murder or any other case that can be related to.
Additional police officers have been deployed to Umlazi to maintain order. 2 of the gunmen are still at large. Durban.
Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba says it's been a week of anguish and pain. He was speaking to communities following violence during anti-illegal immigrant marches in Pretoria on Friday. The minister addressed a congregation in Sunnyside today as part of government's social cohesion program in the wake of xenophobic violence.
Coming together for Sunday worship amidst the tensions from last week, it was an opportunity for the Home Affairs Minister to address a major concern in the wake of xenophobic violence.
Those who instigated this, who got the whole country and continent on panic mode, clearly felt the cold isolation and lack of support, and we wonder if they are happy and satisfied now.
Gigaba says the genuine concerns raised by locals have been lost in the violence. He's also hit out at exploitative business practices for fanning the flames.
They mentioned a number of companies in Mamelodi and Atteridgeville which are employing foreign nationals completely to the exclusion of South Africans. We are going to raid those companies. We will take measures against them.
While calm has been restored in Pretoria, there are still fears amongst the immigrant community.
They say we should not put the name of a xenophobic attack like just a name. No, I want to call it a xenophobic attack because we attack each other.
Not all foreigners are criminals, you understand, and crime has no nationality.
Gigaba also lashed out at Johannesburg Mayor Herman Mashaba for his comments against foreigners.
The minister says while immigration policy is a complex issue, he's urging South Africans and foreign nationals not to forget their humanity. He's also appealing to places like this church to work together with government in bringing our communities together. Sikelelwa Mdingi, Pretoria.
Now, migration experts are warning leaders against sending conflicting messages to South Africans about foreigners. The African Centre for Migration and Society says they tell locals to embrace diversity while warning them about the dangers of foreign nationals.
Locals and foreigners clashing in the capital. Calm has been restored, but fears of xenophobic violence still run high.
It's not that South Africans hate foreign nationals, but it's about bread and butter issues. It's about the sense that opportunities have been taken by the foreigners. Take, for instance, in Mamelodi, in El Mapias, in township level, the small businesses or the spaza shops or tax shops owned by foreigners, all of them.
Comments like these have migration experts deeply concerned.
In some ways, we've seen some very positive remarks coming from the political leadership, but it's deeply contradictory. For months and months, they'll talk about foreigners and the need to control immigration and the dangers of foreigners taking over township economies, and then at the last minute speak about how we must embrace our cosmopolitanism and our diversity.
Landau also accuses the president of delivering the wrong message to society.
Comments from the president that this is a legitimate frustration with crime is deeply worrying. We wonder why, if these people are so frustrated, government hasn't done something before. But moreover, it legitimizes the march. It says that this frustration, this anger, is natural, is legitimate.
Other migration experts are calling for more serious measures to tackle violence against foreigners.
Until the government comes out and creates some sort of tribunal that is going to deal with the case, and it's going to deal with the people who are doing what they're doing. And I think we can't go forward from there.
The experts say residents and foreigners must learn from each other to grow their businesses and to foster better understanding of their mutual problems. John Bailey, Pretoria.
The Communist Party says its alliance leader, the ANC, is increasingly making decisions by itself. The party says it's concerned about calls for ministers to resign or be fired. The SACP concluded a 3-day meeting of its Central Committee today.
Bladen Nzimande was asked if he's started packing his bags, ready to vacate the Higher Education Ministry. This as speculation reached fever pitch that President Jacob Zuma is about to reshuffle his cabinet, dropping members including Nzimande.
We will comment about cabinet reshuffle if and when it happens, and also if necessary.
The SACP says there's growing recklessness and disdain for collective decision-making in the alliance leader, the ANC. The party is clearly taking a side, but it insists it's not along factional fault lines.
We need to take sides with those who are fighting corruption, for instance, with those who are fighting looting, against the corruptors and the corrupt.
And the feeling of being sidelined by its alliance partner is palpable. Former Eskom boss Brian Molefe's appointment to Parliament being the latest case in point. The SACP is saying it would have advised against the decision had it been consulted.
We can't expect the ANC that it simply wakes up and decides on its own on a matter like that, and thereafter expect that we're going to close ranks as the alliance and then agree, as if we were consulted. Those are the kinds of things that we are pointing out and saying they must end.
The party says it's weary, though, of expending too much of its energy on what it calls factional and palace politics, instead of dealing with challenges such as unemployment and inequality. Thulasizwe Semelane, Johannesburg.
All right, some good news for farmers. The country's drought is easing. Water Affairs Minister Nomvula Mokonyane says many dams are showing recovery after heavy rainfall. Officials conducted a brief test on the sluice gates of the Vaal Dam.
A rare sight. 2 of the Vaal Dam's sluice gates were opened for a short period. Hundreds came out to witness the event. The dam is currently at 97% capacity.
The increases in most of the dam levels result from the very significant rains over primarily 4 days of good rains in the past week, with approximately 386 million cubic meters per day flowing into the river systems.
4 months ago, the Vaal Dam's levels were only 26% due to the drought that gripped parts of South Africa. Government says they will open the sluice gates at the Vaal Dam and the Bloemhof Dam to prevent the dams from bursting. Residents downstream have been warned about possible flooding. The SA Weather Service has also warned that drought conditions could return in the spring when the El Nino weather pattern returns.
What the Weather Services is predicting is actually accurate, and hence our own message that says let's continue to be water-wise.
There are still serious concerns about the drought's impact in the Western Cape and parts of the Northern and Eastern Cape. Despite the higher dam levels, water restrictions remain in place across various parts of the country. John Bailey, Deniseville.
Human rights lawyer Issa Musa has died at the age of 81. The retired Western Cape High Court judge passed away at his home in Cape Town after battling a terminal illness. He was laid to rest in Mowbray this afternoon. President Jacob Zuma sent his condolences to the family. One of the country's most celebrated legal minds, Musa retired in 2011 after more than 4 decades in the legal field. He was originally from District 6. The South African soldiers who died on board the SS Mendi have been honoured in Cape Town. The Gunners Association Western Province held a special event to mark the disaster. The military ship sank 100 years ago. Commemorative events have been taking place both at home and abroad in celebration of the fallen soldiers. International news now. Civilians in Iraq have been killed during the government's offensive into western Mosul. Suspected Islamic State militants have been detained as thousands fled the city. Many civilians have been killed by landmines as they tried to get away. Moving to Russia, thousands have marched through the streets of Moscow to mark the second anniversary of the assassination of Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov. He was particularly outspoken against Russian President Vladimir Putin. He claimed to have evidence of Russia's direct involvement in a separatist rebellion raging in eastern Ukraine since April 2014. Nemtsov was shot in 2015 while walking across a bridge. And a vehicle has driven into a crowd of people in the U.S. city of New Orleans, injuring at least 28. They gathered in the Mid-City district for the Mardi Gras parade last night. The driver of the car has been arrested. Officials say they don't suspect it was driven by terrorism. Coming up after the break, a South African karate champion uses martial arts to help youngsters overcome their challenges. Welcome back. A South African karate champion is inspiring a new generation of youngsters to reject drugs, violence and crime. Sandile Makwali says he faced similar challenges growing up. After traveling the world, Makwali is now sharing his knowledge and skills.
30-year-old martial artist Sandile Makwali has a 3rd Dan black belt in karate. Reaching this level takes many years of practice, intense discipline and self-control. But as a 13-year-old child, it wasn't his motivation for learning karate.
Where I grew up, it's a very, very mean place. The rest of Bloemfontein, they know Begna School. Even the rest of Mangaung, like Utabelo, the guys from Taban, so they know of Begna School. They really, really fear the place because the criminals are there. The guys who are using drugs, selling drugs, they are all from that place. We used to watch the movies of the likes of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and stuff. So seeing those guys trying to work with bullying and stuff, they took their classes of martial arts. So I thought that was the only way I can really work against it. The aim was just to defend myself and be able to punch someone if they punch me. But when I got in there, I found out it was a totally different thing. They teach you self-control, which means you can't really punch someone on the face.
So tell me the story about your belt, because that's clearly not a black belt.
This is not really a black belt. We made, Sensei Hendrik made this when we were going to Germany, just to show off our cheetah, because we were land of the cheetahs. So this is just a show off.
Karate has taken Makwali around the world, where he's won several medals and global recognition. He could be teaching at an expensive school, but he's charging just a small fee to his students in Mangaung. It barely covers his expenses, but sharing this knowledge and skill is bringing new riches to his community. Jana Roos, Bloemfontein.
Your weather with Candice after the break. Stay with us.
We saw most of the cloud and rainfall in Limpopo on Sunday, with moisture still pushing in over the eastern parts on Monday, resulting in some drizzle along the northeastern escarpment. It'll be a mostly cloudy Monday with the possibility of rainfall over the eastern part of KwaZulu-Natal, with isolated thundershowers forming over the northeastern and eastern interior. We'll see a bit of cloud into the eastern Cape, back with sunny and hot weather over the western part of the country. It'll be a warmer day in KwaZulu-Natal on Monday, with highs in the middle and upper 20s. You'll see rain along the coast as well as for the adjacent lying interior, but with thundershowers over the northwestern parts. A predominantly sunny and dry day is expected for the eastern Cape, 27 for Bishu and Umtata, with highs in the mid-20s along the coast. Fine and hot for the western Cape, sizzling hot for Worcester at 37, a toasty 42 for Vredendal, with highs in the low 30s for Langebaan and Cape Town, and maximum temperatures head into the upper 20s over the southern part of the province. A dry day throughout the northern Cape with lots of sunshine and a high fire danger warning over the western parts, 28 for Alexander Bay, a partly cloudy and dry 32 for Kimberley. We'll see isolated thundershowers into the Free State, except over the western parts. You'll also see isolated thundershowers into the northwest, with a cooler day here, still in the low 30s for Freiburg though at 32, and we're forecasting highs in the middle and upper 20s for the rest of the province. Isolated thundershowers extend over the southwestern part of Limpopo, with some light rain or drizzle for Polokwane and Zanin. Drizzle and light rain is forecast for Bombela at 25, with rain in the forecast for Ermelo and Emakazeni at 22 degrees. Isolated thundershowers are expected for Gauteng at the start of the work week, 28 degrees for Pretoria, with the rest of those highs in the mid-20s. On Tuesday, we'll see patches of isolated thundershowers across the interior, with a hot day along South Africa's coastline. Temperatures continue to warm as we head into Wednesday, with a dry forecast in the northeast, but you'll see isolated thundershowers from the northern interior through the central parts and all the way through to the coast. That's all from the Weather Centre for now. Have a lovely week.
Before we go, Umlazi residents are hopping mad after a deadly mass shootings rocked the area. A plea for harmony as some South Africans clash with foreigners. And that's a wrap from the eNews Direct team.
Until next time, good night.